So welcome to this session of the European Commission's Research and Innovation Days, dedicated to the topic of pooling global efforts to tackle global challenges. My name is Patrick Child. I'm Deputy Director General in the Research and Innovation Directorate General in the European Commission, and I'm going to moderate what I'm sure is going to be a very lively and rich discussion today. The topics we're going to explore are firstly, what is the potential role of international collaboration on research and innovation in meeting some of the global challenges that we are facing, whether it's sustainability, whether it is climate change or global health challenges, particularly in the light of the recent COVID pandemic. And I also want us particularly to focus today on the role of multilateral initiatives. So when more than two countries come together around a common challenge and work together to deploy research and innovation policies where they can really matter. And so I'm very much looking forward to our discussion, which we're going to structure around a number of important themes of research and innovation collaboration in the post-COVID world, and in particular as we meet the challenges of the green and digital transitions that are facing all our societies. The discussion is, I think, particularly timely because the European Commission has recently published an important new communication on our global approach to research and innovation, setting a new direction while reinforcing our very strong commitment to being open to the world. And so, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the stellar group of speakers that we're going to have for today's event. And so we're going to start off with an introductory message from our Commissioner, Virginia Sinkevičius, who is the Commissioner responsible for the environment, oceans and fisheries. And then we're going to have a panel discussion where we have Blade Nzimande, the South African Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology. Welcome, Minister. We have Ricardo Serrao Santos, who is Portuguese Minister of Maritime Affairs. And we also have Javiera Aldunate, who is Head of International Cooperation at the Chilean Energy Ministry and a member of the Mission Innovation Steering Committee, working also with me on clean energy innovation. So just before we kick off, a few words on how we're going to structure the session. We have a Slido system where you can introduce your questions, and we will have, I hope, a good opportunity after I've been through the discussion with the panel to answer some of these questions. But we're going to start things off first with a message from Commissioner Sinkevičius, and then I'll have a stimulated discussion among our panelists. So now we start with the Commissioner, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for this invitation. As policymakers, we have the responsibility to follow science. And with these Research and Innovation Days, we are making sure the European Commission has the best science available. Science is very clear about the interdependent challenges of climate change, biodiversity loss and pollution. It's also clear about the urgent need to act. 1 million species are at risk of extinction, and the world loses forests of the size of Belgium every year. But with the European Green Deal and the recovery from COVID-19, we have a chance to rethink our approach and to enter a green transition. We can build back better, transforming our patterns of production and consumption. There has never been a better time to act. Environmental awareness continues to rise all around the globe, and the young generation is demanding concrete actions to live on a healthier planet in future. We have major opportunities on the global environment calendar to show leadership and to push for ambitious global frameworks. The biodiversity and climate conferences of the parties, the UN Food System Summit and the UN Ocean Conference, to name just a few. We are strongly committed to promote faster development and green innovation. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, and the International Resource Panel play a central role here, and it's highly important that they work closely together. With our recent communication on the global approach to research and innovation, we are supporting multilateral partnerships for global health and the green and digital transitions. Today you will be discussing how these partnerships can lead to policies that are better informed and speed the deployment of green innovation. Working together reduces the global burden, pools resources and achieves greater impact. This takes us closer to our green objectives and to delivering the SDGs. The mission on Healthy Ocean sees coastal and inland waters, as well as the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, are good examples, where we join forces to restore the oceans based on science, research, and innovation. Building back better is not just a slogan. It's the state of mind we need to deliver the green transition for us and for the future generations. It means good science, close cooperation, and plenty of goodwill. I wish you all of this for your meeting today. Thank you.
Commissioner, thank you very much for that excellent introduction to what I'm sure is going to be a very rich discussion on the particular opportunities that we can see in deepening our international research and innovation collaboration through a number of thematic areas. And I would now like to open up a discussion with our three panelists around a single question, which is what is the experience that we have all had of the substantive results of existing multilateral partnerships in a number of key areas in tackling our global challenges. And we've selected carefully our members of our panel from their deep investment and experience of a number of very important relationships for the European Union. And so I'm hoping that they'll be able to focus on some very practical experiences and examples of collaboration in these multilateral fora in different areas. And I'd like to start, if I may, with Minister Santos, which I think flows well from what the Commissioner has said. In your experience of multilateral collaboration on research and innovation, but perhaps with a particular focus on the All-Atlantic Research Alliance. Minister Santos, please.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, and thank you for the invitation. And just want to greet my dear colleagues, Blade and Zimande from the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Education from South Africa, and the Head of International Cooperation, Javiera Aldunate, from the Ministry of Energy in Chile. Let me say that tackling the ocean challenge, and in this case, Atlantic challenge, involves, in fact, global and coordinated action. If you look to acidification, overfishing, biodiversity loss, that was mentioned by the Commissioner, pollution, including the pollution from new emergent polluters like plastics and others, or medicines, or ocean warming, they know no boundaries. And the Atlantic is to be seen, and here at the European Union, we promoted that a lot, as a shared resource. But who knew conflicts? Who knew competition? And in the past, it also knew greed upon its resources. And cooperation has been recognized as a major need since some decades now. In our times, we have to say, the challenge concerning the human impacts on the marine environment of our planet do not conform primarily to political boundaries. Thus, major actions of science diplomacy have recognized this and have called for scientific cooperation among Atlantic nations. Indeed, the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance rises from is built upon two important declarations signed by the European Commission, one in 2013, the Galway Declaration that was signed between Canada, the United States, and the European Commission, and in 2007, the Belém Statement that was signed also involving South Africa, Brazil, and other countries in the Southern Hemisphere of the Atlantic. And it is made possible to engage East-West and South and South Atlantic nations in increasing the interest and to develop better knowledge on the Atlantic. And the fact, this is very important, these statements were not dead wording and were clear, invigorated through several steps, of which I would like to highlight the transposition to the H2020 program. That's, for those who don't know, of course, you, Patrick, know well, it's the framework program for research in the European Union, and led by the European Commission. Of some of its aims, the aims of these statements were incorporated on H2020 program, and translating in funding mechanisms for projects, programs, and actions. For instance, projects and programs like Ahora, Anchor, Atlantis, High Atlantic, and Sponges have improved our ways of working together and our knowledge, and they incorporate partners from east, west, north, and south. Another is the Eurofleets. The Eurofleets is another wonderful example of partnerships built to promote ocean research, sharing, and access to oceanographic platforms and ships. Research to sea with heavy platforms is not easy, is not cheap. And I believe that Horizon Europe, the next framework program of the European Union, and its Starfish mission and partnerships will promote this dialogue and collaborative cooperation at all levels and scales, and lead to new breakthrough discoveries and technologies in the Atlantic, and will lead the line for what we need to know to have a better ocean. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much indeed, Minister, for this first very convincing and well-established example of multilateral engagement where research and innovation has really brought important benefits for a major challenge. I'd like now perhaps to come to Minister Nzimande, if I may, with the same question really, but perhaps this time focused in the health area. We have a long-standing cooperation through the European and developing countries clinical trials partnership. And I wonder, Minister, whether you could respond to my question about how you see the benefits of global engagement on multilateral research and innovation challenges, with particular reference to this very important initiative.
Thank you very much, Patrick, colleague Santos, and the other participants here. Our point of departure really as South Africa is that given the multitude of the global challenges that we face, international cooperation is inevitable. In fact, the more the world develops technologically, the more interdependent it becomes. And the more one problem in one part of the world is likely to affect the problem in the rest of the world. And there is no better example like the COVID-19 pandemic that we are facing now, which underlines the fact that science actually knows no borders, and therefore there is a need for collaboration. The main thing around which you mentioned, Patrick, we've been participating actively is the European and developing countries clinical trials partnership, which brings together Europe and Africa. And South Africa in the African continent has been one of the more active participants in the clinical trials in order to develop the right medicines or the right vaccines to be able to deal with the problems that we're actually having. In fact, the EDCTP, as we call it, has brought together researchers and institutions in Europe and Africa in a manner perhaps that we've not been able to do before, around a very concrete area of health and around the concrete area of clinical trials and partnerships. Also, this program has contributed enormously to enhancing cooperation, interestingly enough, at bilateral level as well, because often as we cooperate multilaterally, opportunities for bilateral cooperation based on strengths or interdependencies between any two countries in a multilateral environment tends also to come to the fore. One of the other things that is very central in this is that innovation is very key in addressing global challenges. These clinical trials, of course, is a major platform for innovation in the health sector, and that innovation has led to the development of new vaccines, drug treatments, and other interventions, including in particular addressing the health needs of more vulnerable and disadvantaged groups, such as children and pregnant women. And also creating research ecosystems through skills and capacities, research and facilities infrastructure is another very key successful aspect of multilateral research partnerships. And building this research capacity is a tangible outcome of the clinical trials program. And it's one of the areas where we've managed, for instance, to bring together fellows, postdoctoral scientists and clinicians, mid-career scientists, and other senior researchers who have actually been able to work together in a manner that perhaps we have not been able to do before. Just the last point, is that the success of this clinical trials program also lies in its ability to bring together various partners. In other words, partners who ordinarily would not have been able to come together, but have been able to come together, even developing further relations beyond just this clinical trials program, underlying the importance of multilateralism and cooperation in the area of health as just one classic example. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I think you made some very, very important points there, and just highlight a few that stuck in my mind. I mean, firstly, the issue of how we articulate, on the one hand, our multilateral engagements and our bilateral policies, and the opportunities that may flow from multilateral engagement for new, stronger bilateral relationships, very strong. I think the second thing that I wanted to highlight in your remarks was the importance that this isn't just a business of bringing governments to governments, not just between public authorities, but it's an opportunity also to engage with the whole research and innovation landscape, whether it's universities, researchers, and the private sector. And thirdly, your very powerful last remark about the strong general convening power of international action in order to draw attention to important global challenges. And that, I think, allows me to move on now to Javiera and to the question of clean energy innovation. The Chilean government has recently hosted an extremely successful series of meetings of Mission Innovation and the Clean Energy Ministerial a couple of weeks ago. And so, Javiera, I'd be grateful to get your insights onto, what has this sort of multilateral partnerships around the clean energy agenda achieved in practice and contributing to broader global challenges. Javiera, please.
Thank you, Patrick. It will be my pleasure to speak to this issue. As a rather small country, but enterprising country, Chile benefits enormously from international forums to accelerate our clean energy and climate ambitions. It is also an avenue for us to expand our influence and participation in tackling challenges that we cannot address alone. Within all these multilateral partnerships, we aim to play an active and significant role. That's why, even though we contribute very little to the global emission-driving climate change, we still seek to be a leader in the clean energy transition. It is why we host COP25 and why, as you said, just 2 weeks ago, we successfully host the 12th Clean Energy Ministerial and the 6th Mission Innovation Ministerial events. We have been member of Mission Innovation since its inception, as we share the same ideals to hasten clean energy solutions that are affordable, attractive, and accessible to all. Combining, collaborating, and cooperating with like-minded leaders, innovators, and technical experts in this field allow us to focus on outcomes that benefit us individually and also collectively. During the first phase of Mission Innovation, we invested substantially in our vast renewable energy potential. This investment and collaboration with other countries through Mission Innovation led to the development of new optimal solar technologies that are specifically designed to take advantage of the world's best solar radiation in the Atacama Desert. Renewable energy now accounts for roughly 46% of the electricity generation in Chile. With innovation such as this, we are on track to reach our goal of having 70% renewables energy generation by 2030. As part of our drive for innovation, we recently announced the creation of the Clean Technology Institute, an open public-private innovation platform for the new clean energy and mining technologies. This is the largest research, development and innovation investment in Chile history, and will act as a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship, focusing on research and development of solar energy, lithium, and other advanced materials needed for battery storage and green hydrogen.
Thanks very much, Javier. Well, I think we've heard already now 3 very, very convincing examples of gatherings, fora, initiatives where we see really successful results coming out of multilateral collaborations around shared research and innovation agendas and supporting in this way some of our global ambitions, whether it's global health, climate change, or the clean energy transition. But I'd like now perhaps to take the discussion a little bit further to understand and get the benefit of our panelists' excellent experiences on what has made these 3 examples successful, and whether there are things that we can do as we look to the future to build on that success, either to make the action in these areas more sort of operational, or indeed learn lessons for other things. And I'd just like to comment at a personal level that what I see is that these 3 examples are where we have essentially voluntary coalitions coming together of countries without a very heavy institutional infrastructure sort of governing the way that it works, which of course allows us to be flexible and agile, but at the same time gives a sort of degree of fragility to what we're doing in this in these areas of collaboration. And so I'd be really interested to get the perspectives of our panelists on how we manage this question of sort of formal institutionalized setting or not. And the other question that I'd like to touch on is the question of inclusiveness. How do we make sure that we include all the partners who have something to bring to the party, while at the same time not making our structures so large and so cumbersome that they become unmanageable? So, I mean, those are perhaps some questions to take the discussion and to the next level. Maybe Minister Nzimande, you'd like to start because you have huge experience from the South African perspective of engagement, not only in the EDCTP, which is the example you gave, but also more generally on how multilateral collaboration is most effective. Minister, please. The whole connection. I see we've lost the connection with Minister Nzimande, so I don't know whether Minister Santos, Ricardo, you'd like to come in on this question. What is for you the model of international collaboration which works best, against the background of the sort of inclusiveness, scale, and the institutional underpinning, not institutional underpinning? Ricardo. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I'm okay now.
Very good, perfect.
I see it's not very good, but that's some limitations today. And so that's a very important issue, very important question, and huge challenges. And regarding, because I'm concentrating on this issue of the Atlantic and ocean research, and regarding this all Atlantic, and this all is important, Ocean Research Alliance is a huge effort that is its success, of course. What worked well were the partnerships that were established, and that's no doubt. And I would target perhaps for challenge. First, a common language. I don't mean it per se, but different nations have a way of working and responding, either very institutionalized or not. And that requires a time lapse for people starting to work together at the same space, while they have the same language and the same language, I mean the scientific language, technical language, and the same challenge to global challenge to tech. Second, the funding, which is always an issue, particularly in the ocean. As I said before, ocean research, if we go to the sea, if you want to map, if you want to study biodiversity, you want to see how the ocean works, we have to be there. And this ocean research is typically very expensive. To bring the ships to the ocean is expensive. And cooperation takes a lot of difficulty regarding funding, as wealthy countries can support low-income ones to a certain point. Funding mechanisms, as the ones set by the European Union, are fundamental, really. In the Atlantic, the proposed mission on healthy oceans, seas and inland waters also or partnerships in corporate marine affairs will be certainly expected to be transformative. In Portugal, a great effort for investment is being placed for the next 5 years in our recovery and resilience plan to face the issues that arise from the COVID-19 pandemic. This is not only a viral issue, it's also something that hurted very strongly our economies and our jobs. And this planning that was already approved and is now in the road as a component dedicated to the ocean and the blue hubs, which are a set of investments in coastal infrastructure with access to water, with labs and test zones, including prototyping, scaling up, incubation, and leveraging for marine and maritime companies. The third challenge, and it is important, is an engaged society. Just politicians or scientists would achieve ocean solution or sustainable solutions. This would be impossible. We need the society. And recently, we had a huge meeting in the Azores, where the Azores Declaration was signed by many governments around the Atlantic. And the Azores Declaration, arising from the all-Atlantic high-level ministers and stakeholder forum held this month in the Azores, focus on this. The need to connect researchers and communities, to bring people and young ocean ambassadors and entrepreneurs in touch with scientific research. Last, the fourth, but this not means the least, we are acting against the clock. As a society, we have a tremendous responsibility towards future generation and apply science and innovation to find sustainable solutions for a healthy ocean and a healthy planet is detrimental. And I would like here to remind the decade of ocean science for sustainable development. And this has to make the difference. It is not a decade of ocean science solely. It is a decade of ocean science for sustainable development. We have to put together and work together the developed countries with the developing countries on finding solutions and help and transfer technologies and knowledge. Thank you very much.
Minister, thank you very much. And I think you made four really powerful points. I mean, in particular, the need to have a common language and a sort of shared engagement, the need to have adequate resources, funding, the need for it to be something which, a message that goes beyond just government circles, and also something where we have a clear sort of time horizon. Javier, I'll come back to you because I think we've lost the connection with the South Africa. I mean, are these also elements that you've been confronting in the clean energy space? I mean, or are there other ingredients that you'd want to share with us that you think are also relevant?
Absolutely, Patrick. As the Vice Chair of the Mission Innovation Steering Committee, I and the whole team have been working over the last years to address some of the main challenges to accentuate the benefits of MI before designing and launching its second phase. The next phase of MI will shift focus toward outcomes, concrete action, the enabling of pathways to markets, and the maximization of investments in support of clean growth, job opportunities, and energy access while pursuing net zero carbon emissions. That's why we now have even larger ambitions. In the second phase of Mission Innovation, Chile is taking a leading role in the developing of the mission on clean hydrogen alongside Australia, the UK, the US, and the European Commission. Our collective aim to increase the cost competitiveness of clean hydrogen to build a global clean hydrogen economy. For this, we have partnered with several of our competitors in this space, focusing for now on collaboration in this early stage to foster a market that is estimated to grow to $25 billion by 2030, large enough for us all to play a significant role. Cooperation now in the research, development, and innovation is essential to accelerate the deployment and use of this clean fuel. After all, we cannot compete if there is no field in which to play. The work of this mission will perfectly complement the ambitious national green hydrogen strategy that Chile announced last year. By 2030, our aim is to be one of the top 3 leading exporters of green hydrogen worldwide, shipping approximately $2.5 billion each year at the lowest cost globally. These aims will not become a reality without collective effort and cooperation to facilitate a global market for green hydrogen and other clean energy technologies so we can begin producing them at scale and drive down costs overall. Mission Innovation and other multilateral partnerships provide the platform for Chile and other member countries to continue the work we have already begun in bringing these technologies to market and help us achieve the net zero by the end of 2050 or hopefully sooner.
Javiera, thanks very much. And I'm really glad that you mentioned the example of hydrogen, because this is indeed a topic which is attracting a huge amount of attention in many of our countries, but also internationally in Mission Innovation, in the Clean Energy Ministerial. But it's also an area where collaboration with the private sector and private investment is going to be crucial in achieving success. And it allows me perhaps to pick up one of the first questions we've got on the Slido system, which is indeed, how do we get industry engaged in these global collaborations? Because of course, without industry producing a sort of contribution for all, we won't fully succeed. And so if I could stay with you for a moment, Javiera, if you could say a little bit more on how you see these global platforms stimulating our research and innovation collaborations with industry and the private sector.
I think one of the key issues is communication. I think we have to involve society to understand what we are developing. Hydrogen, now it's in the top of the mind of everyone, but not everyone really knows the impact that this industry can have. So I think one of the main tasks that we have to achieve is to have a great communication about the progresses and how will this impact people. That's, I think, the only way that the private sector will be captured and will be interested in participating. As we said, in the past 2 weeks in the Clean Energy Ministerial and the Mission Innovation Ministerial, the focus was in how to involve the private sector. Without the private sector, we can have really good plans, but we will not achieve the goals. So involving them in the early stage through a good communication, I think it's key.
Okay, thank you very much. Ricardo, back to you. I mean, is this also the experience that you have of engaging with industry, the private sector, in the All-Atlantic Alliance or other related initiatives that you're experiencing, or are there other ingredients that we should be thinking about? You're muted still, I think.
This is really an effort and a mission that has to be engaged. We have to be engaged and enforced. In fact, here in Portugal, we have a very active marine science community. But the engagement with the industry has not been very successful. But during the last 5 years, I must say that a set of top-down initiatives like the collaborative labs were planned in several sectors in view to connect the academia, where important research is done, with the industry. And this is a process that has to be clearly provoked. Now, in our national plan of recovery and resilience, the target is, in fact, to bring the industry and to create agendas of investment involving the academia with the industry. And we need that for sure for the challenge we have in front of us. I believe that more work has to be done at a global scale in the All-Atlantic, and a big effort has to be done in the the aims that we have for the United Nations Sustainable the United Nations Agenda for Sustainable Development, and the rich countries, the wealthy countries, has to get more involved in bringing the least developed countries on this process, on transfer of technology and development in the areas of the oceans and coastal development.
Ricardo, thank you very much indeed. And I'm very interested by your last point in particular about the sort of global responsibilities for international technology transfer. But it's linked a bit to another question that's come in through our Slido system, which is all about, how do we look after our commercial interests, and in particular intellectual property, when we are cooperating globally on some of these cutting-edge technologies, which of course offer our companies and our economies major potential opportunities. And so I guess that the question, the question is framed very much in terms of our relationship with China, which is maybe a little bit specific. But I would just be interested if you'd like to share with us, how you see the challenge of protecting, defending our intellectual property, promoting our commercial interests, while at the same time having rich and mutually productive engagement and cooperation globally and with international partners on important research and innovation themes. And if I could stay with you, perhaps, Ricardo, I'd be happy to get your perspective on that.
Yes, I've been trying. Can you hear me?
We maybe have...
Sorry?
No, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yep. This is a very interesting issue, mostly when we approach these issues in the marine and ocean environment. And if we look to the past on in intellectual propriety of patents, for instance, related with products or molecules that were originated in our seafloors or water column, what we see is that rastreability and origin of the collection and then the development of all the process is a black hole. And we need, in fact, a better regulation on this size. I must say that, for instance, molecules derived from microbes or other organisms from the deep sea, for instance, generally didn't have on the register the location where they were collected, and sometimes the species they refer. And they enter the market of patents with a lot with lack of information. I believe that an important process that we are engaged now on the biodiversity and the genetic resources beyond national jurisdiction are tackling this issue. Is not still solved, but it is something that we need to have the traceability. Of course, having a molecule does not mean much. It's the proof what they have a function and an opportunity to go on the commercial side, but it is something that is now tackled by several agencies, and but still there is a lot of law and jurisdiction inside these things. But traceability and transparency is something that has to be taken very, very seriously and agreed at the international level. We have the World Trade Organization that deals with these kinds of things, and all these countries that you mentioned are part of this World Trade Organization, and it's an issue related with regulation.
Yep. Thank you very much. I think you made some good insights and I hope responded well to the question from our participant. I'm delighted to see, Minister Nzimande, that you have managed to rejoin us, and so very happy to see you back. And I think you were just sort of left us when I was trying to frame a question, which I hope you will have a chance to respond to now, about the sort of trade-offs in multilateral collaboration on research and innovation. On the one hand, between inclusiveness, and there I think your perspective would be particularly valuable. Inclusiveness versus the sort of number and scale of membership in global partnerships. And the second dimension is the degree of institutionalization. I mean, we were talking here about three initiatives which are essentially voluntary and sort of led by their members, and not so much about the cooperation through more established institutionalized structures. And so I would just be interested to get your perspective on those two dimensions, please.
Yes. My apologies for having been disconnected, Maybe very briefly, the point I was just wanting to make in the first instance is that the issue of inclusiveness is very important. But before one talks inclusiveness at multilateral level, we also need to talk about inclusiveness within a national geographic space, especially in societies that are still characterized by huge inequalities like the one we inherited from our past apartheid era. It's very important to succeed at multilateral level that we are able to pull in the multiplicity of voices and pull them together at an internal national level. I just thought I needed to raise that. The other thing that helps with inclusiveness is thematic focus. It's very important that in this cooperation, we've got themes, even within themes, to agree on which areas are primary around which we need to cooperate. If there is relative amount of consensus around those thematic focus, it actually goes a long way in addressing the issues that we are talking about. Of course, I must congratulate the EU for its launch of the global approach to research and innovation and its emphasis on multilateralism, especially in a world also that sometimes still tends to have tendencies towards unilateralism. So this intervention by the EU as an important and a powerful bloc in itself is a very important form of assistance in actually emphasizing the issue of inclusiveness. I think also it's important in inclusiveness to look at not just the strategic issues or issues at strategic level, but at operational level as well, actually to strengthen the governance. So at operational level, we still actually have these kinds of cooperation being effective, like the one on clinical trials, which I was talking about in health, to create viable systems that are actually able to manage the multilateral at an operational level becomes very important. And that is where then institutions also play a crucial role, because institutions often becomes the pillar around which we are able to better operationalize these issues for multilateral cooperation. Those very briefly would be some of my interventions in this important topic. Thank you, Patrick.
Minister, thank you very much indeed. And I'm very sorry to say that we seem to be running out of time, because I have a sense that there are many issues here that we could discuss for many, many more hours ahead. But I mean, I'd like, just in drawing things together and in thanking the distinguished members of our panel, also for the Commissioner for his thought-provoking intervention at the beginning of our session, but also all the participants, just to highlight some of the themes that I think have come out of what we've been discussing. And firstly, I think there's been a strong recognition that multilateral engagement around key themes of research and innovation can deliver important benefits to all of us, and that they will be increasingly important in our post-COVID landscape, where we are facing global challenges in areas like health, in areas like climate change, sustainability, and the clean energy transition. So I think we have a strong consensus coming out of the panel panel on that. I really welcome the support that I've heard for the European Commission's recent communication on the global approach to research and innovation. Certainly confirm what you say, Minister Nzimande, about the importance within that of our continued really strong engagement on the multilateral dimension. And I believe, like you, that this is vitally important as we look ahead to future challenges. We've touched on many other issues, from intellectual property to engagement with the private sector, which are all, I think, highly relevant as we take these questions forward. But I think in conclusion, I just want to thank everyone for your participation and underline again that multilateral collaboration done in a flexible, agile and results-oriented way is the key to delivering the sort of operational changes which you, Minister, mentioned, taking us beyond the sort of strategic discussions. And I think that that's ultimately what we all want to achieve. Thank you again. Have a great day.